And create a new processor. And what this processor is going to do is I'm going to call it file size filter processor. And what it's going to do basically is going to accept a flow file, and it's also going to accept an attribute that's going to define a flow file size. And basically what's going to happen is if the size of the received flow file is less than the size of this attribute setting, we'll go ahead and pass the file through to success. If the flow file size is greater than the attribute setting, then we're going to go ahead and fail it. All right, so let's get started, and we're going to go ahead and use Eclipse for this one. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is import this file into Eclipse. So what I'm going to do is run this maven command that'll convert my NiFi processor into something that Eclipse can use. So we're going to type maven eclipse eclipse space -D download sources equals true, and this will convert our NiFi processor into something that Eclipse can use. So go ahead and hit return, and if you look below in the demo processors directory, you'll see some new files being created that Eclipse is going to need to actually help use it. So there's project and a class path that we're going to use in Eclipse. So let's copy this path, and let's bring up Eclipse. And we're going to go ahead and import this file into Eclipse. We're going to go import, general, existing projects into workspace. Then we'll paste our path into there, and you should see our project we just created. There it is right there, that we can import into Eclipse. So we'll go ahead and finish that. And let's see, let's close a couple of windows here. Let's see, Java perspective, let's close this. And there is our project imported into Eclipse. Now the benefit of this is you can use all the features and functions Eclipse has to kind of make you help code a little better. You can see our My Processor Java classes there, and actually if you can use some of the things like F3, it'll show you where the My relationship in this case is defined. So you can use all those things that Eclipse has available to you to help you code a little better. So let's go ahead and create a new class that we're going to use for our new processor. And I'm going to call it file size filter. And all I'm going to do is just copy the My Processor code and copy it into the file size filter class, just to make it easy to start things off with. And then I'm going to modify the file size filter to have the appropriate relationships and properties that I'm going to need for my processor. So let's save that. And let's do the same thing for the test case. We're going to make a file size filter test class. And same deal, I'm going to copy the code from the My Processor test class into the file size filter test class. Let's go ahead and copy that over. And I just have to rename it so that it'll compile. And don't forget to run that. Don't forget to name the class in your test runner as well. And you always, and for this, you need to also define for NiFi where the new processor is going to be located. So you need to actually define in this settings class, the settings properties file, what the name of the filter is. Otherwise, you'll never see it show up in your processor list. Okay, so look under the meta info services. Just add your new path to your new processor there. Okay, so you can also download the source code for NiFi. I use that sometimes just to see what any code I can steal. So this shows you all the processors that NiFi is available off the shelf, and you can actually edit some of the classes to copy and paste some code if you want to steal some stuff there. In fact, I'm going to open up the get file, and I might steal some code as far as how to do some logging. But for right now, let's go ahead and modify our file size filter class. We're going to add some relationships, a success relationship and a fail relationship. We'll get rid of the property file from the relationship file from the previous class. And we're going to put a new relationship in there as well. So let's go ahead and add the fail and success relationships. Okay. And now let's go ahead and add a new property. And we're going to call it max file size attribute property. So this will be the attribute that contains the file size that we're going to test against. And we're given a default value of some file size. It has to be something in there. So you see the descriptions and all the other stuff. So we're going to go ahead and add initialize it and add it to our processor. And now we're going to actually code something in this onTrigger method to actually do it. But first I need to, let's see, I need to define the max size. I need to initialize it. So let's go ahead and initialize it to 0. So pretty much everything's going to fail because the max size is going to be 0. And I'll put all this code on my website if you want to just look at it, and I'll put it on the instructions as well. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get the property of the max file size if it's there. If it's there, we're going to go ahead and parse the value out for whatever the max size is set to. So again, this is an attribute set name. The name of the attribute is going to contain the integer value of the max file size. If it's there, we're going to parse it out, and we're going to go ahead and redefine the max file size based upon this value. We do session.remove flow file, so we don't have to terminate the flow file anywhere. It'll just automatically just end. We don't have to self-terminate or anything. So let's go ahead and do the test for the max file size. If it's less than the file size, we're going to pass the success relationship. Got to put flow file in there first. And if it's not, obviously, if it's greater than, then we're just going to go ahead and send it to the fail relationship. And again, I'll put this on my utilities on the website. You need to download it. Okay, so we have our max file size set. And we're going to copy some code here from the get file processor. We're going to look for the logger so we can log some information here. So I'm just going to copy and paste something from the get file processor that comes with NiFi. And we'll just put some debug statements in here, or info statements in here, just to see what's going on. And just to kind of echo out what's going on inside of our processor as we're doing things. So, okay, we get a flow file. I'll just say we got a flow file. And then if we actually got a max size value was reset, let's go ahead and echo out the new value. And we'll also echo out what the actual name of the attribute is we're using. Just for like a sanity check to make sure that we're using the same attribute we thought we were. So we'll info out the new flow file size, and then we'll also say what attribute we're pulling that value from. And again, we set that attribute in the processor when we configured it. I'll show you that in a minute when we bring up NiFi. And let's go ahead and say if the file size is something, if it's less than, we'll go ahead and echo something out saying, hey, we're going to pass the file through. And if it's not, we'll say we didn't pass it through because the file size was this size long. And we got to do one more thing. We got to return here. Otherwise, we're going to keep on going down through the code. So if the attribute's present, we're just going to set the new max file size and then just exit out of the processor. Okay, so we got the success and fail relationship defined. Yeah, so max size fine. Okay, so that's our success. That's our fail. That's our property for max attribute. And let's see, and then we're processing the attribute if it's there. We go ahead and set the max file size, and this is just the new code we added. It's just pretty much right here is what we added to the base processor. All right, so let's go over and do our let's do our maven clean install again, so we can create the new nar file that we're going to move to the NiFi libraries directory. Okay, so there's our NiFi demo nar directory. Go into the targets, and there's our NiFi demo nar file. We're going to copy and paste that into our lib directory under NiFi. Now, since the file was already there previously, it's probably going to come back and say that you sure you want to copy it over. Yes, we do. So now we have two processors in there. Let's go ahead and go to NiFi the bin. Go ahead and start it up. And what we're going to do is we're going to generate a file, a flow file of 1 kilobyte size, and run it through our new processor and see what happens. And we'll just go ahead and log stuff. We're not going to actually write it anywhere. So there's our new file size processor we just created. And if you want to look at it, you can see there's the stuff we set for the do not pass and pass the file and all the descriptions. There's our attribute that we set with the default settings, some file size with the property. So we're just going to generate a 1 kilobyte flow file and send it into to our new processor. And it should fail because the default size was set to 0. Since we're sending a 1 kilobyte size file, it's greater than 0, so it should go through the fail path. Let's go ahead and set all this stuff up like we usually do. 10 seconds. And we'll just go ahead and have the paths go to log just so we can follow the flows. I know this is going really fast, but just watch it over and over again. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and we have a success path and a fail path. That's just going to go to the log attributes. So we'll do the do not pass file to go down. The pass file will go to the right. Again, if the file is less than the defined file size, we'll go to the right. Okay, so this first time it should fail because our default value is 0. And we're going to set our screen to info so we can see all the info messages that we set for the logger. And let's go ahead and start it. Let's see, got one file there. Let's go ahead and just self-terminate these loggers so that we get everything read and ready to go. Okay, so we have 1 kilobyte file size. We're going to pass through a file size filter that should go down because it's not greater than 0. So we should go through the do not pass files path. Let's go ahead and start it. And sure enough, there it is. And you can see our log message that tells you the same. You've got a flow file. File size was not passed. And you see we have one here in the queue because 1024 is greater than 0. Or 1024 is not less than 0 as far as our logic is concerned. All right, what I'm going to do now is define the new attribute file size. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to create a file processor, and based upon the file name, it's going to define the size of the attribute. So I have this file directory here that I'm going to drop files in, and I'm going to take the name of the file and use that as a new file size. So you see I have a 1500 and a 1000 there. So I'm setting the file size value attribute to the name of the file name. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and set that to our attribute under file size filter. So instead of some file size, we're going to go and do file size value. Again, this is the attribute we set just above it in the update attribute sections. Again, the name of the file is going to determine the size of the file we're going to let pass. Start everything up again. And let's run it through again. It should fail because we're still at 0. Yes, still at 0. We can actually look here at the logs and see that file not passed size is more than 0. It's 1024. So let's go ahead and start our file get file processor, and we're going to drop a file in there with a file name of 1500, and that'll reset our file size to the size of 1500. So let's drop that into our test directory. It's going to grab it. It's going to set the attribute to 1500. File size filter is going to grab it, reset the file size to the max value of 1500, and now it should pass it over to the right because the file size is 1024, and 1024 is less than 1500. Okay. You do it again, you can see that the file size attribute got updated, and it'll show it in the logs. If I drop 1000 in there, the new file size will now be 1000. Okay, there's a reference value and the new file size. Again, we did that in the log.info in the class. So we dropped the file in there. It's 1024. 1024 is greater than 1000, so it's not going to get passed. Lesson 10 recap. This was a pretty long lesson, but I think it was pretty cool because you got to learn how to create your own NiFi processor, and you pretty much can do whatever you want once you know how to write your own processor. But it is important to know that you need to have Maven installed and Java installed. And I showed you that if you type maven-version and java-version, that you can actually see if it's actually installed in your machine or not. You learned how to do create a new flow file template using the Maven archetype generate. Then we selected NiFi as the archetype, and then we went ahead and created a new processor for us automatically called myprocessor.java. We modified the POM because I think I left this dash snapshot in there, so I think we had to go ahead and delete actually the dash snapshot from that POM file. And then I went ahead and copied the basic logic of the myproject Java file into a new class that we defined called filesizeFilter.java. And then we imported that into Eclipse using the maven eclipse command. And then we went ahead and added the new processor to our config file so we can tell the NiFi library that there's a new file there. And I can give you the whole path here, but basically what you want to look at is the resources meta-info in the services directory, and the name of the file you want to edit is org.apache NiFi processors.processor. Okay, so just to add the new path to that file. It's just a text file. I showed you how to do a build using maven clean install command, and then we copied that new nar file after we ran the install into the lib directory onto NiFi, and then we went ahead and started it, and we were able to see our new processor. So basically the steps involved in building a new processor are to use the command maven archetype, it's late, generate. And then we choose the number to associate the filter. So basically, I think you might have anywhere from maybe 600 or so different types of Maven projects you can generate. So we want to use the one that has NiFi in it. So if you just type in the word NiFi, it'll narrow it down for you, and you'll probably only have one choice. So then you'll choose number 1, and then it'll ask you which version of NiFi you want. And I think I chose the latest and greatest, which was version number 4. And then you go ahead and create your package settings. And in this case, I think I went over some of the settings I used to go ahead and actually create the class. There's the directory there that I happen to use. Go ahead and play with it, and you'll get a good feel about what the values are you can put in, how it affects the directories that are created. It also created a package for us. And then I edited the POM file because again, I had that snapshot error file in there that I guess I need to figure out how to get rid of that. But if it doesn't, if you run the maven archetype generate and you get an error, you want to go ahead and look in this directory, edit this POM file, and then delete the word dash snapshot, and then try it again. And you want to have it look like this basically. I showed you how to convert Eclipse to an Eclipse project, and basically it's a really cool command. You just run maven eclipse dash capital D download sources equals true, and that'll take your newly created NiFi processor package and make it into something that Eclipse can read. And then you can do all the things and once you import it into Eclipse, you can do all the things that Eclipse lets you do as far as compiling, looking for errors, and searching, and all other stuff like that. And then we went ahead into the upper level NiFi processors directory. You do a maven clean install, and then you go ahead and copy in this case, the NiFi demo.nar file, again, nar file, not jar file, in the target directory, and copy that to your lib directory in Niagara files. The best thing to do is, what I would do is you can actually get the source code from NiFi and just go ahead and download it. And you can go ahead and edit, look at some of how they actually write some of their processors, and it's convenient if you want to see how it works, and if you want to just steal some stuff. Like I think in this example, I showed you how to. I grabbed the log function to go ahead and show you how to log stuff in the log window. But here's the path. Of course, depending on the release version, these numbers might vary a little bit, but the basic thing is you want to look into NiFi processor standard is where all your standard processors are for NiFi that you see when you go ahead and drop the processors down. And of course, if you want to look, I'm going to put the flow file filter Java class that we created today into my website. It'll be under the utilities URL, And you can either download the Java file or actually put the source code up there so you can cut and paste it. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to visit our website at www.silvercloudcomputing.com. There's a NiFi webpage there that has an actual working demo of a NiFi process I put together. It's pretty in-depth. It uses JMS and some FTP stuff, processors. So you can go ahead and look at that. And of course, if you have any NiFi specific questions, please feel free to email me at nifi@silvercloudcomputing.com. Thanks.